34 years old, and finally deciding to see a therapist about my dating life. Been single for 5 years, with nothing lasting more than a few months. Keep hearing the same thing from guys that I am too much or too intense. Figured it is their problem, but maybe I should get a professional opinion. Book an appointment with a relationship therapist named Dr. Chen, who comes highly recommended. She has a no-nonsense reputation, and apparently tells it like it is to clients. Exactly what I need, because my friends just validate me without helping, honestly. Show up to her office nervous, but ready to figure out what is going wrong. She asks me to describe my dating life and what patterns I notice happening. Tell her I am successful and attractive and have a lot to offer a man. Say I know my worth and refuse to settle for less than I deserve. But somehow, guys always pull away after a few months, and I cannot figure out why. She nods and asks me to describe my last relationship that ended recently. Tell her about Julian, who I dated for 4 months before he ended things last year. Said he felt like he could never make me happy no matter what he did. I told him that is because he was not trying hard enough to meet my needs. Dr. Chen writes something down and asks what Julian did that was not good enough. I start listing things like he did not text enough during the workday to check in, did not plan elaborate dates, and just wanted to hang out at home most nights. Did not remember small details I mentioned in passing about things I liked. Did not prioritize me over his friends when I needed him to be available. She asks how often I communicated appreciation for things he did do right. I pause because I do not really remember praising him that much honestly. Say I did not think I needed to because he should just know I appreciated him. She writes more notes, and I can tell she is forming some kind of opinion. She asks me to describe what I think I bring to a relationship overall. I tell her I am educated with a master's degree and a great job making good money. I am independent and do not need a man for anything, which is empowering for both of us. I know what I want, and I am not afraid to communicate my needs and boundaries clearly. Dr. Chen looks up from her notes and asks a question that catches me off guard. She says, "Do you think men experience you as a prize or as a burden?" I immediately say prize, obviously, because I have so much going for me in life. She says, "Okay, let me explain what I am seeing from what you have told me." She says when you describe yourself, you list accomplishments and independence as value, but those things do not make a man feel good. They just make you impressive on paper. A prize is something someone wins that makes their life better and brings them joy. A burden is something that makes life harder and requires constant work and energy. Says, from what I described, it sounds like I make dating me feel like hard work. I require constant communication and elaborate effort to prove he is trying hard enough. I keep raising the bar, and nothing he does is ever quite good enough for me. I focus on what he is not doing instead of appreciating what he is doing daily. Says my independence that I am so proud of can actually push men away emotionally. If I do not need him for anything, then what is his role in my life exactly? Men want to feel useful and valued, not like optional accessories in my perfect life. My independence becomes a wall that prevents him from being a partner to me. Feel myself getting defensive, but she said she would be honest, so I stay quiet. She continues and says, I also present my needs as demands, not as invitations for connection. The way I communicate makes men feel like they are failing instead of trying to connect. I am so focused on my boundaries and needs that I do not leave room for them. Asks me what I think Julian felt like dating me for those 4 months we were together. I say probably lucky because I gave him a chance when I could date anyone. She shakes her head and says, from what you told me, he probably felt exhausted, felt like he was constantly being evaluated and coming up short on your scorecard. Says he probably went home from dates feeling worse about himself than before them, because I made him feel inadequate instead of making him feel good about himself. He probably talked to his friends about how nothing he did was ever good enough, and they probably told him to get out before he lost himself completely in trying. That stings because I know Julian did talk to his friends about our relationship issues. One of them told him I was too high maintenance and he should find someone easier. At the time, I thought that friend was just an asshole who could not handle a strong woman. Now I am wondering if that friend was actually seeing something I refused to see. Dr. Chen says the hard truth is that I present myself as high value intellectually, but I do not make men feel valued, which is what actually matters in relationships. I have confused having standards with being impossible to please and satisfy. Ever. I have confused being strong with being difficult and exhausting to be around daily. She says men do not commit to resumes. They commit to how women make them feel. I make men feel inadequate and constantly judged and like they are always failing me. A prize makes someone feel like they won something special and lucky to have it. A burden makes someone feel tired and like they are carrying something heavy alone. Asks me to think about the last time I made Julian feel like he won something. Think about it and realize I cannot remember a single specific example honestly. I was always so focused on what he was not doing that I forgot to appreciate him. Forgot to make him feel good about himself because I was too busy critiquing everything. She asks me to describe how I act on dates and with men I am getting to know. I ask a lot of questions to figure out if they meet my requirements quickly. I watch for red flags and pay attention to how they treat waiters and talk about exes. I need to know early if they are wasting my time or if they have real potential. Dr. Chen says, so you approach dating like an audition where they perform for you. Like, you are the judge deciding if they are good enough to be in your presence. Asks me how I would feel going into a date knowing the other person was evaluating me. Admit I would feel nervous and like I had to prove myself the whole time. She says that is how every man feels going into a date with me based on my energy. They are not relaxed or having fun. They are performing and hoping they pass my test. Says that is exhausting, and nobody wants to sign up for a lifetime of that stress. So they leave and find women who make them feel good instead of anxious. She asks about my social media and how I present myself online to the world. I say I post about my accomplishments and my lifestyle and my high standards proudly. I share feminist content about not settling and knowing your worth as a woman. I make it clear I am not desperate and I have options and standards to meet. She says so. You advertise yourself as hard to please and difficult to satisfy, essentially. Asks me what kind of man sees that and thinks I should pursue her specifically. Says the men who pursue me are probably either masochists or narcissists who like the challenge. The healthy, secure men see my page and swipe left immediately to avoid the drama. Says I have built a personal brand around being high maintenance and difficult to please. Then wonder why I only attract men who leave after they realize I was serious about it. I set expectations that I am a burden from the very beginning with my presentation. Then act surprised when men treat me like effort that is not worth the reward. Feel tears forming because this is harder to hear than I expected it would be. Came here thinking she would help me find better men or fix some small things. Instead, she is telling me I am the problem and I am actively pushing men away. That I have been my own worst enemy this entire time without realizing it. Dr. Chen softens a bit and says she is not telling me this to hurt me or judge me. Says she is telling me because I can change this if I actually want to at all. But first, I have to accept that what I thought was strength was actually defensiveness. What I thought was having standards was actually being impossible to please ever. She says real strength is being secure enough to appreciate people as they are right now. Real standards are about character and values, not about constant performance and effort. Says, I need to learn to make people feel good instead of making them prove themselves. Need to be someone men want to come home to instead of someone they need a break from. Asks me what I want from a relationship at the core of everything I say I need. I think about it and say I want to feel loved and secure and prioritized always. I want someone who makes me feel special and sees my value and treats me right. I want partnership and support and someone who is there for me consistently every day. She says everything I listed is about what I want to receive from someone else. Asks me what I want to give and how I want to make a partner feel daily. I realize I have never actually thought about relationships in terms of giving before. Always approached it as what can I get and does he meet my needs adequately? She says that is the core problem right there in how I think about relationships entirely. I see them as transactional, where I get my needs met if he performs well enough. Instead of seeing them as partnerships where both people make each other feel valued, I am taking from relationships instead of building them with another person equally. Says, until I shift from what do I get to what do I give, I will stay alone forever. Because no healthy man wants to be in a one-sided relationship where he only gives. Men want to feel appreciated and valued and needed just like women do every day. But I have made it clear through my actions that I do not need or appreciate men. Asks me to think about why I approach relationships this way defensively and critically. What am I protecting myself from by keeping men at a distance through impossible standards? I sit with that question and realize it goes back to my parents' divorce when I was young. Watched my mom give everything to my dad, and he still left her for someone else. Decided then that I would never be like her, depending on a man who could leave. Would never give everything and risk being abandoned like she was back then. So I built walls and standards and requirements to protect myself from that pain. Never let anyone close enough to hurt me the way my dad hurt my mom years ago. Dr. Chen nods and says that makes sense why I developed these patterns of behavior, but says those walls that protect me from pain also protect me from love and connection. Cannot have one without the other, and I have to decide what I want more, safety or partnership, because I cannot have both with the walls I have built. She says my mom's mistake was not that she loved and gave to my dad fully. Her mistake was choosing someone who did not value what she was giving to him. Says the answer is not to never give, but to give to someone who gives back equally. But I have to be willing to give first before I can find someone who reciprocates. Says I need to learn to see men as potential partners instead of potential threats. Need to approach dating with openness and curiosity instead of suspicion and judgment constantly. Need to focus on adding value to someone's life instead of extracting value from them. Need to become someone men see as making their life better instead of harder to manage. Gives me homework to do before our next session in 2 weeks from today. Wants me to list 10 ways I could make a man feel valued without requiring anything back. Wants me to examine my social media and notice how I present myself to potential partners. Wants me to pay attention to how I make people feel when they interact with me. Leave her office feeling completely destroyed, but also strangely hopeful about things. Destroyed because I have to face that I am the reason I am alone right now. Hopeful because if I am the problem, then I have the power to change the outcome. Cannot change men, but I can change how I show up in relationships going forward. Spend the next 2 weeks really examining my behavior with everyone around me honestly. Notice how I rarely compliment or appreciate people, just point out what they do wrong. Notice how I make everything about what I need instead of what others might need. Notice how I keep score and hold grudges instead of letting things go and moving forward. Start practicing giving compliments and appreciation without expecting anything in return immediately. Tell my coworker her presentation was great and watch her face light up from the praise. Thank the barista for making my coffee perfect and notice how he smiles after. Tell my friend I appreciate her always being there when I need her and she tears up. Realize how little I have been giving to people and how much I have been demanding. Realize how good it feels to make other people feel good instead of constantly critiquing. Realize this is what I have been missing and why people pull away from me constantly. I am exhausting because I take all the energy and never give any back to others. Go back to Dr. Chen 2 weeks later with my homework and new awareness about myself. Tell her I have been noticing how I make people feel, and it is bad, honestly. She asked me to elaborate on what I have noticed in the past 2 weeks specifically. I tell her I make people feel judged and inadequate instead of appreciated and valued. She asks if I am ready to hear more hard truths about what needs to change. I say yes because I cannot go back to who I was now that I see what I was doing. She says, okay, then we are going to work on dismantling your burden mentality entirely, going to rebuild how you see yourself and how you show up in relationships from scratch. Over the next 6 months, I work with Dr. Chen weekly on changing everything about my approach. Learn to catch myself when I'm about to criticize and choose appreciation instead. Learn to focus on what people are doing right instead of what they are doing wrong. Learn to make people feel good about themselves instead of like they are failing me. Learn to present myself as someone who adds value instead of someone who demands it. Change my social media to show warmth and openness instead of walls and requirements. Change my conversations to be about connection instead of evaluation and judgment constantly. Change my entire energy from burden to prize by actually being valuable to be around. Start dating again 8 months after that first therapy session that destroyed me initially. Meet a guy named Sterling through friends who seems interested but cautious with me. Can tell he has been hurt before and is nervous about getting involved with someone. Old me would have seen his caution as a red flag and moved on immediately. New me understands his hesitation and works to make him feel safe and valued slowly. Make sure he knows I appreciate him and that spending time with me is enjoyable. Focus on making him feel good about himself instead of making him prove himself worthy. Let him lead sometimes and support his decisions instead of taking over control always. He tells me after a few weeks that I am different from women he has dated before, says most women make him feel like he is interviewing for a position constantly, but I make him feel relaxed and like I actually enjoy being with him as he is, says he was nervous at first, but now he looks forward to seeing me every time. That feedback tells me the work I did with Dr. Chen is showing in real life clearly. I am no longer a burden that men endure. I am someone they actively want around. The shift from demanding to giving changed everything about how men experience me daily, and apparently men can feel the difference immediately when they are with someone giving. Year later, Sterling and I are still together, and stronger than any relationship I have had. He tells me all the time how much he appreciates how I make him feel about himself. Says coming home to me feels like relief instead of stress like past relationships did. Says he wants to build a life with me because I make his life better, not harder. Think back to that first therapy session when Dr. Chen asked if men see me as prize or burden. At the time, I was so sure I was a prize because of my accomplishments and standards. Now I understand being a prize is about how you make people feel, not what you have achieved. I was a burden disguised as a prize and wondered why nobody wanted to carry me. Dr. Chen was right that I needed to shift from what do I get to what do I give. That single question changed my entire approach to relationships and to life in general. I stopped being a taker and became a giver, and everything changed because of it. Men started wanting me around because I added value instead of demanded it constantly. Tell my younger friends who are struggling with dating about what I learned in therapy. Some listen and some dismiss it as pick-me behavior or pandering to men unfairly. The ones who dismiss it are still single and complaining about men not being good enough. The ones who listen are in happy relationships with men who value them and show up fully. You can lead people to wisdom, but you cannot make them accept it if they are not ready. I was not ready at 29 or 31. I had to hit 34 and 5 years single before I would listen. Some people will figure it out, and some will stay alone defending their burden behavior. All I can do is share what worked for me and hope it helps someone else sooner. Look at my life now and barely recognize who I was when I walked into therapy that day. The woman who thought her accomplishments made her valuable in relationships was wrong. The woman who kept men at arm's length to protect herself stayed alone because of it. That woman had to die, so this version of me could be born and actually be happy. Being a prize is not about what you have, it is about what you give to others daily. Being valuable is not about your resume, it is about how you make people feel around you. Being chosen is not about being perfect, it is about being pleasant and supportive and warm. Dr. Chen taught me that, and it saved me from a lifetime of loneliness and bitterness. Sometimes you need a professional to tell you the truth your friends will not say. Sometimes being called a burden is exactly what you need to hear to change direction. Sometimes the hardest therapy session of your life is also the most important one. And sometimes learning you are the problem is actually the best news you could get.